Hey guys, Nathan here, and today I'm taking a look at the new Hitman game, seeing what's good about it, what's bad about it, and what could maybe be improved. Now, only the first episode of the game is out at the moment, and I'll definitely be talking about the episodic nature of the game in a minute, but for now, we have to judge the game on what's actually been released. So let's start with the gameplay. Hitman gives you an assassination target, the tools to complete the assassination, and a large sandbox area. Everything else is up to you. You can disguise yourself as an array of different NPCs by incapacitating them and stealing their clothes, which allows you access to different areas. In terms of actually killing your target, Hitman is a game that makes you feel like some kind of deadly invisible ninja, as you take out your targets in extremely cool and fun ways, such as launching them out of a fighter jet ejector seat. Or maybe you're more of a subtle killer who would rather just slip some poison into your target's martini. This game lets you do that. And when all of this comes together and it works, it's a slick experience that is truly enjoyable. Unfortunately though, it doesn't work all of the time, as the AI often seems completely brain dead. In the clip that's on screen now, I've decided I like the idea of being a fashion model. I mean, who wouldn't? And I've made my way up onto the catwalk, which is of course not allowed, and I should be confronted by guards for this. However, if you look in the bottom left corner of your screen, you'll see that the guards are in fact searching for me. Searching? I'm the centre of attention at the moment. Every person in this entire room is looking at me. How the hell can you not know where I am? And that certainly isn't the only time the AI has proved itself to be absolutely terrible. On multiple occasions, I've been allowed to stand mere feet away from two NPCs who are having an incredibly private conversation, while it's very obvious that I'm staring at them and listening to every word they say. Now granted, I have been looking for these issues with the game and creating situations in which they could show themselves, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that those issues are there. Now like I said, when these issues aren't rearing their ugly heads, or if you can somehow manage to just completely ignore them, the gameplay is a lot of fun. I particularly enjoy the way that opportunities present themselves naturally as you walk around the level and listen in on conversations. For example, in one mission I helped a blogger get a new camera lens so that she could do an interview with the target, and as I did that she lured the target outside into a more secluded area where I could take him out. I also enjoy the environmental kills, such as dropping a barrel on an enemy's head. Honestly, it seems like one of those great games where you and your friends can both play the game separately and then come together the next day and talk about how you each completed the mission, and every single one of you will have a different way of killing the target. So overall, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The concept is fantastic, and about 90% of the time everything is great, but scratch a little beneath the surface and you'll find some glaring issues. Anyway, I think I've moaned enough about gameplay problems, so let's move on to talk about the graphics. Now, when I was summing up the gameplay section, I used the phrase mixed bag, and that phrase certainly wouldn't be out of place for this section either. The Paris level offers a great looking environment with several varied and pretty rooms. Many of the surfaces look realistic with nice looking reflections, and the level is packed to the rafters with NPCs, which really brings the world to life, and the catwalk and outside fountain areas are particular highlights for me. On the other hand though, character models look decidedly last gen, with maybe Agent 47 himself being the exception. I only say maybe because even his model didn't look superb, it just looked better than the others. Now, I can understand that when you have several hundred NPCs wandering about, they can't all look immaculate, but it's still a little disappointing, especially when you see how fantastic the characters look in the cutscenes. There is a possibility that these issues might go away if you max out the graphics on a PC, but for me running on a GTX 970, which is a pretty decent card by the way, the game runs so poorly that upping the graphics settings just isn't an option, and I can't imagine that console graphics are any better than the ones I'm seeing. Now, I said at the start of the video that I'd talk about the episodic business model of this game, and well, here we are, and I have to admit I have a fairly large list of issues with Hitman being episodic. So let's start with the biggie. There's no real benefit to the consumer. You could argue that it allows you to try the game out before you drop money for the full game, and if you don't like it you've only wasted £10 rather than 40. But that doesn't take into account the beta that's already happened, the vast amounts of YouTube footage of the game, both of which can be used to decide whether or not you like the game without spending any money, and on PC there's Steam refunds that allow you to get your money back if you don't like the game. Realistically, if the try before you buy argument is the only one you've got, then they should have just released a demo for a full game rather than asking you to pay for part of an incomplete one. Another issue with this business model is that there's no guarantee that the future episodes will come out on time or even up to standard. Even Telltale Games, who are basically the masters of episodic games, regularly miss their release deadlines, and their stories often deteriorate in the later episodes, with the Game of Thrones series being one of the most notable for having this issue. Personally, if I was into the Hitman games purely for the story, I would be very worried by the episodic nature of the game. The final episodic issue I want to talk about in this video, although I do have more concerns, is the pacing of the game. Now, usually in a game with a linear story, the levels start easy and get progressively harder. Also, the story builds to a climax at the end of the game, and that's all fine. But I worry that the episodic nature of Hitman will mean that IO Interactive feel the need to give each episode its own story climax, as well as adding excessive challenge into early missions in an attempt to appease the hardcore Hitman fans, who would be put off by not having any more difficult missions released for several months, all of which will actually take away from the quality of the final game. Honestly, I feel that the decision to make Hitman an episodic game has been made from a purely cynical standpoint, either to make more money from the game or not to lay out the full cost to make the game right now. And while it is an interesting experiment to see how well Hitman does under this business model, I feel it will be to the detriment of the game in the end. So overall, what does Hitman 2016 offer? Well, we have slightly janky gameplay with average graphics, really poor performance on PC, and in my opinion a business model that will be to the detriment of the game. And you know what? It's still a lot of fun. I know I've railed on it for the rest of the video, but I have actually been enjoying my time with the game so far. And the only thing is, it's such a shame to see all of these mistakes that have been made in the development and release, because this could have been a great game. But even after all of those mistakes, it's still an enjoyable experience. So, would I recommend buying it? Absolutely not, no way, at least not yet. There's a lot of stuff that needs fixing, and personally I think it's best to wait until all the episodes have been released, and then see if the result is any good as a complete experience. Provided you're willing to wait, I think Hitman still has the potential to be a good game, so long as it doesn't fall into the pitfalls that can come with episodic game releases. So that's about it for today guys. If you enjoyed the video, I'd be very appreciative if you'd leave a like underneath, let me know what you think of the game in the comments below, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. Anyway, I've been Nathan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.